This is a game where your own incompetence is the only thing that makes you grow old. This is Sifu, published by the same team behind Expedition 33, and it is insane. This game is addictive and also insanely difficult, and today the goal is simple: beat the first boss. The reality: I might be over 70 years old before the first phase is even over. Do I have what it takes to survive the first boss on master difficulty, having never played a single second of Sifu before today? Or will I be spending the rest of my life in an old age home? The answer might surprise you. To get used to the game at least a little bit before jumping into the absolute nightmare that is master difficulty, I'm starting on the normal difficulty. I really like the art style, and the fact that I'm getting over 300 FPS is actually a problem. It means I cannot blame my inevitable defeat on lag. After learning the controls and looking around, we hit the first fight. Honestly, I was doing way better than I thought. The combat feels fluid, brutal, and it honestly reminded me of the Matrix. Little did I know at the time, this was just the prologue. You literally cannot die during this part. After beating some people into a pulp, I eventually reached the master. I thought he'd put up more of a fight, but he went down surprisingly easily. We take out the old man, finish off his kid, and leave the place. But now the real game begins. We switch to that same kid, now grown up and fueled by revenge. We go through this awesome training montage, and it's finally time to see if all that practice actually pays off. Now that we are finally in the actual game, I started by gathering intel at the hub. I'm also adding this death counter in the corner, just in case things get ugly. After getting a feel for the hub, we dive into our first mission, the squats. At this point, I had no idea the avoid mechanic even existed. I was relying heavily on blocking and parrying, which let's just say might come back to bite me later. Even so, I wasn't having too much of an issue with the basic enemies, which made me feel confident. Too confident. After clearing out some rooms and collecting evidence, I get to this amazing 2D hallway section. This part was incredible, and honestly, it made me feel like a god. But that confidence soon turned out to be my downfall as I finally suffered my first death. In Sifu, when you die, your age increases by your current death counter. Since this was my first death, I aged by 1 year, putting me at 21. I pushed on, took out a fat enemy who loves to grab you, but then I died again in the money counting room. After an extremely close call, I reached this massive warehouse where my crowd control was about to be tested. It definitely didn't go smoothly, but I only died one more time. That brings the total to 3 deaths before even reaching the boss. Now, it was time to face one of the people who killed us in the beginning. Our first boss fight. Keep in mind, I went into this fight at age 23. My lack of knowledge about the avoid mechanic was really holding me back. I struggled to properly counter his attacks. Looking at the footage, I was actually avoiding some attacks here and there, but we can definitely chalk that up to me panic pressing buttons. Even then, the first phase wasn't too bad. I only ended up dying twice before taking him down, but then things got weird. The boss just stood there, staring at me, not attacking, not moving. I looked everywhere for a path to reach him, but there was nothing. At this point, I started thinking that the game might actually be bugged. I asked ChatGPT, and it confirmed this is a bug. So I did what anyone would do. I restarted the game, and to my surprise, the game made me start the whole fight from phase 1 again. No big deal, right? Well, I died 3 more times just getting back to phase 2. I was playing really bad. I wasn't memorizing his patterns, and I wasn't using the focus or avoid mechanics at all, which cost me another 2 lives. I did end up beating him before I got too old to continue, but I'll admit, I was not playing well up until this point. At age 47, I finally beat the first boss on normal difficulty, having died a total of 10 times. Now that the practice run was over, it was time to see what this game actually had to offer on its hardest difficulty. I restarted the game on master difficulty and went through the prologue just to get a feel for what was different. Surprisingly, I was doing way better thanks to the fact that I finally understood the avoid mechanic. I got through the prologue quite easily. Even in the first mission, I was tearing through enemies. I was able to avoid attack and strike enemies much more efficiently than I did on my normal attempt. I did end up dying on the exact same part I did during my normal run, but even then, it wasn't too much of an issue. Yet, I got killed by these two really difficult enemies, then died, not once, not twice, but thrice in the room with a lot of enemies. I was already at age 28 by the time I reached the first boss, and things were not looking good. I'll admit, I was a bit nervous when I stepped into the boss fight, but I honestly was not prepared for what happened next. After the first death, I was able to avoid some attacks and deal a little bit of damage until it was not going my way. And the worst part, I was already in my mid 50s within the next 2 minutes of this fight. I looked old and experienced, but in reality, I was just old, as I still had no idea how to avoid his leg sweeps. I did not even get to the first phase on this attempt. I had to go through the entire level again. Though the shortcut did come in handy, I was able to make it back to the boss at just age 21 this time. I had age on my side and had already fought him once, but I could not get through even his first phase on this attempt or the next. At this point, I decided to take a day off. I knew I had to get through those leg sweeps in order to beat this guy, but I just wasn't able to dodge them consistently. But then it hit me. I can also do leg sweeps. So for my next attempt, I practiced on the basic enemies, kicking them down, then beating them up, and it actually helped me quite a bit. The strategy was simple. Bait him into the jump attack, dodge it, kick him to the ground, and beat him up over and over. And the result, I got through the first phase with just one death. But now it was time for the second phase, and this was my first time facing him. I struggled to get used to his new attacks, which caused a couple of deaths, and I barely did any damage to him up until this point. I was already 50 and still had no clue how to dodge his attacks. Though by age 57, I finally memorized a little bit of his movement. But then I died 2 more times. My age 74. This was it. If I died one more time, I would have to restart from scratch again. I was terrified. I even ran away for a little bit to catch my breath. But then I landed one more low sweep, punched him a couple of times, and it was finally over. I had stopped counting the deaths at this point. It took me a total of 3 full runs to beat him, and even then I finished at 74 years of age, just one death away from hitting game over. From 20 to 74 years old, it was a brutal ride, but I finally did it. Since recording this, I've actually mastered this boss on my own time and can now consistently beat him before reaching age 25. Do you guys want me to take on the rest of the game, or should I retire while I still have some dignity left? Let me know in the comments below.